Do you think this is a good look for me?
I think it looks fantastic.
I think you look fantastic as well, but it's kind of hard to see out of the nostrils, and the lights are like super
Oh,
bright.
well here, put some sunglasses on.
Hey guys.
That's
How does
way
this
better.
look?
Guys, we're live.
Hi everyone. My name is
Wait.
Stephanie Mears. I am a product manager here at COMPAREX. Here with me today I have Tyler Williams. Tyler, why don't you go ahead and take off your mask?
Hello.
Thanks, everyone. COMPAREX is a global organization. We are located in 36 different countries across the globe. And our strategy is to help organizations develop strategies around digital transformation and guide their journey. So CLOUDCAST is a live stream for technology enthusiasts to engage with subject matter experts such as Tyler. And Tyler, I think the last time I saw you, we were actually in Munich.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been quite a while, but
all the way
I'm
around the
really
world.
glad that we were able to meet here in North Carolina. Tyler's actually located in Charlotte, whereas myself, I'm located in Dallas. So glad that we could reconvene at a not so centralized, but a great location here at the COMPAREX office. So I already threw out a buzzword, one of the biggest buzzwords in our industry today, and that's digital transformation.
Yep.
And Tyler, I'm hoping for our audience you can define what exactly is digital transformation?
Sure. So we hear digital transformation quite a bit. I'm sure even in your organization you've heard of that pretty frequently, even recently. You hear it in the news, and a lot of vendors are talking about this, and it's really an important way that we're doing business these days. Mm-hmm. So we just take, for example, thinking back to an organization several years ago as an end user, or even in help desk or IT, and having to do something for your organization to onboard employees, or maybe you have a new project starting, CLOUDCAST, for example. We want maybe some files to be stored somewhere. We want groups to be created, distribution list. So we have to put tickets in, right, to our help desk and ask them to create, whether that's a security group or maybe a team site on SharePoint, shared calendars, et cetera. And the stream to do that was multiple tickets, right? We could put a single ticket in, but that ticket would need to get out to multiple teams to do things.
It's very tedious, took a lot of time,
Absolutely.
A lot of labor, a lot of money.
Correct. And how do you really track that years from now down the road? How do we know if that's stale data that's sitting out there? How do we know if that's a group that's really being used, or what about maintaining that security group? So how do we do that? You'll see lots of new and exciting technologies that are coming out to help centralize that and really transform the way that not only we as end users are doing business to help productivity, but think about the end user community, think about the help desk community, think about security and compliance. How do we ensure retention upon those technologies and vendors that we're using?
Okay, yeah, that's actually really interesting. And we actually have a question from Stacy, who asked, Microsoft releases numerous applications through the portal, which is the Office 365 portal she's referring to, which makes it difficult to focus staff on what tools to use. Can you please explain for Stacy the role of hosted SharePoint in relation to applications like Teams, Planner, and others that are available within Microsoft's Office 365?
Sure, so that's probably a great question. And we do see the question that happens frequently, if you're in an end user standpoint, what do I use and when do I use it? Mm-hmm. There's a lot of technologies that are being released very quickly, especially in this cloud and the cloud offerings that we have. We want to make sure we're staying current. We have the latest tools to help us do our job. When you start looking at technologies like Planner or any of the technologies that are out there, they're leveraging Microsoft Groups right now in the Microsoft space to help that.
And Microsoft Groups is a part of Office 365.
Correct. Yep, it's built off the Azure Active Directory structure.
Okay.
It's included with your Office 365 subscription, and it's really changing the way we're doing. So going back to digital transformation, it's exactly that. When we create a group, either as an end user or an IT admin can create it as part of their admin role, what we're seeing is it's actually building onto different technologies. So Planner, you talked about, is part of a group. SharePoint Online, we talked about a little bit. It's got a document library repository. Maybe we've got a shared notebook that we can add in. All of that's getting added into these features of these groups. So we can create a group, and from the group we can automatically turn on specific technologies across multiple technology stacks.
Okay, wow, yeah, and groups actually, Microsoft's done a lot of development over groups over the past 3 years, I guess groups came into existence back in 2014 where they were primarily focused on Exchange workloads, but it looks like Microsoft has really integrated groups into the other workloads that are available within Office 365.
Absolutely. So think shared, you just mentioned Exchange. So we have a shared mailbox, right? Maybe we want to do some quick collaboration. We want to have some external email coming in there. But what do we do with the data that's in there? We want a shared calendar. We can either do that in Exchange or we can do that in our SharePoint Online document library, right? So we have these different technologies, and leveraging the groups allows us to be able to have one single point that we can audit and log and give these users the ability to stand those technologies up.
That's great. So even from an administrative standpoint, it makes things much easier, as well as enabling users to go ahead and create these groups for themselves so they can begin collaborating within their teams.
Sure.
That's great.
The groups are exponentially changing. So are you familiar with the Office 365 roadmap?
Yeah, I'm familiar with it, but for our audience, if you can go ahead and please describe that for them. I think that's one of the most important resources.
Sure. So I think we should put a link in the stream for this.
And if you want to go ahead and look at the description, there'll be a link for that roadmap.
So roadmap, let's talk about that really quick. Microsoft, for example, is making changes on the fly, oftentimes, right? And so we want to make sure our admins are staying up to date of what those changes are and how they're going to impact their end users. So part of that is what's coming new and what's being developed, what's maybe canceled, changing. All of that's in the roadmap. Not only the roadmap will show what's changing, but maybe it's got future plans.
Developments.
Yep, absolutely.
Yep.
So we want to make sure we stay abreast of that to be able to see what's the latest that's in there. Have you seen groups recently?
You know, I haven't really seen groups too recently. You know what would be great for myself and also for the audience? Why don't we go ahead and take a look and see specifically what groups look like?
Sure. So I can walk you through this.
Okay, that'd be wonderful.
You're logged in as your user, or are you
I'm logged into a user account now. Yes.
Okay. So here's your Office 365 start page. Let's go ahead and just click on Mail, for example.
Okay, I'm in Mail.
And in this tenant, I believe we've configured for the ability for you as an end user to create groups. So you see them on the left-hand side of your Mail.
Yes, I see groups.
All right.
I see where it says Create.
Yep. So we can click on Create. And on the right-hand side,
Okay.
you're going to click on, you're going to provide a name. Now this name, it's an interesting conversation because we don't want users to just name anything, whatever they can across the board, right? So as an admin, we'll look at that in a moment, but we can put certain restrictions in place to maybe have specific naming conventions or prohibited names to be able to use. Again, looking at the roadmap, a lot of changes happening around groups that I think that'll help.
Okay, great. So for myself, if I wanted to go ahead and create a group called CloudCast.
Correct. That's perfect. Yep. And you see the group IDs, the next field down. So that's the default naming that we have where we can provide those naming conventions. But you see it says that it's available. So if there's somebody else that had this group created, we would obviously see an error that's already been in use. You can provide a description. Descriptions are great because we can allow other end users to help find these groups. Maybe they want to join them without having to talk to the IT admin. They want to just talk to the owner of the group.
So this is a group for CloudCast members.
Yep.
Perfect. Okay.
Privacy, we can say who can join these groups, whether it's private or public.
We'll make this public.
And then, of course, we have our language.
I speak English.
And we have, do you want to receive a copy in your own mailbox of all the content that's coming here? So,
you know, I do prefer that. So I'm going to go ahead and check that box.
and you're familiar with shared mailboxes previously. So they still exist, but you would have to go and look in that mailbox to find that content, correct?
Yes.
So this really helps you just bring that down to your own mailbox as it happens. So click on Save or Create.
Great. Okay. It's creating my group.
And this, in the back end, as we talked about the different technologies, it's creating a shared mailbox, it's creating a SharePoint library, it's creating a lot of these different technologies that exist. So think before digital transformation, how did we do this? And how long did this take? How long did this take you to create this group?
Just a minute, but basically,
Okay.
yeah. So now I can go ahead and it looks like I can add you into my group since we are both participating in CloudCast.
Correct.
So great. So now we can begin collaborating with each other, right?
Click on Add and let's see how long it takes.
Okay. Oh wow, okay, that's really fast. Look at everything that I have available to my group.
So we've got conversations, we've got your calendar. So these are your Exchange specific workloads, for example. We have a files tab where we're actually bringing in a document library from a SharePoint site that's happening behind the scenes. Again, talking about the Office 365 roadmap, just looking at some of the features that are out there, have the ability to spin up additional parts of this SharePoint site.
That's great. So.
Notebook we're familiar with. That allows you to actually go and save files.
Notebook, okay. So this notebook is like my OneNote.
Absolutely.
Okay. So I can share notes and collaborate on a common notebook with all my colleagues that are associated to that group.
Correct. Sync that back down to your OneNote application on your desktop, and now you can start looking at different notebooks from different groups without having to log in and look at all those.
And what's this thing called connectors? Let's
Great
take a look at
question.
this.
So connectors, all of the technologies we've talked about thus far are Microsoft, right?
Yes.
But what if you wanted to bring in data outside of Microsoft?
Okay, such as?
Twitter.
Oh, okay.
So you start seeing some Twitter feeds, maybe some RSS feeds, maybe some ticketing applications from Jira, for example. So you see a number of these that are here.
Dynamics,
Maybe you're a
yeah.
help desk and you're looking at your Zendesk tickets. All of this data can actually come back into this group. So you really have a centralized pane to work from across all of this different technology.
Yeah, and this is absolutely very helpful because nowadays most companies are not just utilizing solutions from one vendor such as Microsoft only. They're utilizing solutions from a variety of vendors to cater to the individual needs of their organization. So I can see this being a large benefit to be able to add those third-party content and those third-party tools integrated into this group that I'm already working on with the rest of my colleagues.
Absolutely. It's great.
So let's see what else we've got here. I see Planner. I know we talked a little bit about Planner based on Stacy's question, but I'm glad to see that it's also integrated very closely and very easily to access here.
Yep, so as every group that gets created, you can actually add a plan to that, so we can start doing task-based roles within this group, and so all of that content stays local. Think of creating a task, and maybe you want to attach a file to it. Maybe you want to attach context around it. Maybe you want to assign certain members a task. You can actually do all of that within Planner, a new feature that's available. And so in doing that, you're able to bring all of that data back into the group.
Okay. So everything is consolidated in one common area. That's great. So we see the end user side of things. So from an end user, it definitely looks like it's very easy to use. I mean, I can navigate through it and see everything on the top pane. But what about an administrator? What kind of controls does an administrator have? And I'd love to take a look at that.
Sure, and I just want to add one additional piece that's coming to this that you're not seeing right now, but that is out there, and that's Teams. So you're familiar with Teams?
Yes, Teams. Yeah, Microsoft just released Teams in March, actually.
Correct. So Teams will now also be a part of this group, or can be a part of the group, depending on how they're created, if they're public or private. So really bringing everything into this centralized pane. Think digital transformation. This is really, truly is transforming the way that we're doing work.
Absolutely.
To answer your question around an administration standpoint, this seems fantastic from an end user standpoint, right?
Yes, it does, absolutely.
As an admin, how scared are you?
I can only imagine. I mean, giving my end users control to create as many groups as they want and add people to these groups and give them permission to things that's I feel like I'm losing a little bit of control.
No, absolutely not. So directly, you're logged into an admin, is that right?
Yes, I just flipped over to an admin.
So in your admin, you actually can drill down and look at some reporting for this.
Okay.
Let's go ahead and take a look at your, click on your user, the top left.
User, okay.
And let's go into, your groups, next one down.
My groups.
Let's look at that group that's been created. So is that
Cloudcast?
Cloudcast right
Yep,
there? So let's click
perfect.
on that. As we see, the type is already set to an Office 365 group. A new feature Microsoft's releasing is actually the ability to convert distribution list. So your historical Exchange distribution list, you can actually now upgrade those into Office 365 groups. So right from here, you're able to see who are the owners of this group. You're able to see who's allowed to join the group, some context around that. So you're actually seeing all of this data on the back end as an admin. So maybe you want to change certain things, or you want to edit the properties of this, or edit the members. You can certainly do that right from this screen. Additionally, we have some reporting that's available, so we can start seeing how many groups have been created and what's around those groups. We talked about this being built as well on the foundation of Azure Active Directory.
Yes.
So in the Azure Active Directory panel, if you go to your Admin Center,
Admin Center, okay, Azure. And I think I've got one preloaded, so
There you
here
go.
we go.
So you're in your Active Directory, and you're on your Groups tab.
Yep.
And so let's refresh that because we have created a new group since then, right?
Yes, we have. Okay, look at that. There's CloudCast.
There it is, right there in your Azure AD. So click on that. And you see across the top, again, we have specific things that we can do as well from here. Under the configuration and members, we actually have the ability to create dynamic member distribution list within that unified group. Why do you want to do that, you ask?
Why do I want to do that?
So how many times have you had to maintain a SharePoint security group, a file share security group, maybe an Exchange distribution list? Those are three separate objects previously, right?
Yes.
How do you ensure that all of your members are going to stay updated for that? Dynamic membership is allowing you to do that.
So this definitely helps with role-based access control as well then.
Correct. We also talked about compliance earlier. So within the Compliance Center, we're now able to take content that exists in this group and apply our labels and our policies to that as well. So whether that's stored in SharePoint and maybe you want to expire that content or maybe you want to keep that content, you want to be able to search across this group for any type of content, maybe for a legal holder discovery, all of that you'll have the ability to do within this group.
So it's actually giving administrators more control than what they previously had. Okay, so I mean, I'm a big fan of groups, and I'm a big fan of Planner, I'm a big fan of Teams, and evangelizing them is something I'm top of my mind all the time.
Awesome.
So I'm very happy that this question came up during our CloudCast today, and we can relate it back to the current discussion because I think it's a very important thing for us to discuss with
I agree.
with our audience. So that's great. So we just talked about groups, and we did a quick demo on how we can utilize groups from an end-user perspective and also from an administrative perspective. But do you have a quick tip that we can show our users outside, of course, the Office 365 roadmap that you and I both love? But do you have another quick tip for our audience on how to stay on top of new technologies within Office 365 to promote that digital transformation strategy within their organization?
Sure. So you mentioned the roadmap again.
Yep.
That's going to contain lots of information around that.
Yep, which again is going to be linked at the bottom.
So if you're still logged in as an admin, let's go ahead and click on your admin center.
Okay, back in Office 365?
Office 365,
okay.
Yep.
Yep, I am in my admin center.
And let's click on the home button to get to the dashboard.
The home button.
On the left.
Oh, the
there
one
you
that
go.
looks like a house. Okay.
Yep, the home.
Perfect.
So scroll down. We certainly have the message center just in the middle pane right there.
Yep, I see it.
So let's click on the heading of message center and let's see what's in there. So you'll see that these message center messages, some of them actually directly come out of the Office 365 roadmap published by Microsoft.
Okay.
We have categories such as stay informed or plan for change. This is super important. Plan for change, maybe your organization or your tenant specifically is going to be impacted. We see right here there's a system requirement change for client connectivity. Pretty big change if I need to distribute some new technologies or new software across.
Absolutely. That's something, if I was an IT admin, I would want to make sure that I can test all my internal applications that may have dependencies back on this, ensure that they can still function properly.
Mm-hmm. So that's certainly a plan for change, super important. There are RSS feeds that you can subscribe to from the roadmap as well, but Message Center is certainly going to help you. Let's also take a quick look. So you can mark these as red, so you've seen them. Maybe you want to
So I can dismiss it?
Dismiss them, right? Because maybe it doesn't directly impact any of the users that you have. Let's also go over to the left-hand side. Let's expand.
Okay, I'm expanded.
Let's go down to settings.
Settings, okay.
And let's go to organization profile.
Organizational profile.
We have a release preference right here, right?
Oh, okay, I see release preference, okay.
So let's click on edit. And we have three different types of release preferences. If you have a primary tenant for your organization, you may want to turn on first release for certain users, such as maybe IT, or maybe you have super users
or
in your organization.
Users, yep, okay.
So we can certainly do that at the bottom, that last option right there.
And then it allows us just to click on the next screen, okay.
And then you would select the users that you have in your organization that you want to add to those.
Ah, great, okay, so I can add people from there.
So any changes that are going to affect a tenant, maybe on a user level, that we can actually start pushing that out to our users that we've selected here. It's fantastic to allow us to be able to maybe do documentation or FAQs internally, maybe figure out how this is going to change our organization's workloads.
Yeah, I think, first release is definitely a big tip that a lot of our organizations should be using if they don't have a QA tenant to be testing things with. Because that way, when new features are released, whether it be something on the client side or be on the service side, they can see those immediately and begin to utilize them. So I think that is a very crucial and important thing for people to be aware of. So on that note, we talked a lot about Office 365, but Office 365 isn't the only technology that promotes digital transformation within an organization. So we received a question from Chris, who asked something a little bit different. He moved away from Office 365 and is targeting more Azure, which is around the infrastructure, utilizing the cloud. So how can you use Azure to manage your infrastructure across multiple physical locations to ensure global policies are enforced and provide a consistent user experience regardless of where they connect without having servers on site? And wow, that's a great question.
Wow, okay. Yeah, so that's a great point. We talked a minute ago about connectors within the groups, right?
Yes.
We know specifically we're bringing in data to our organization. We know no organization out there absolutely uses anything other than a specific technology, right? We don't have any rogue departments purchasing other cloud services or purchasing other applications and deploying those, right? That never happens, of course, in an organization.
Of course.
So how do we protect that, right? Azure Active Directory is a great example of using this. So we know there are other cloud solutions out there that organizations may need to use. Maybe they're QAing from a software development standpoint, and so they want to look at a couple different stacks of technology.
Okay.
It makes a great example in Azure Active Directory from a single sign-on standpoint. Not only can we help integrate that identity across multiple platforms and stacks from a user authentication standpoint, but going back to the compliance and security, we can now audit and log that.
That's a great point. And there's additional security on top of that, such as the multi-factor authentication that we can utilize through Azure Active Directory as well.
Correct. So taking that a step farther, we have, you said he mentioned, was it multiple geographies that they're crossing?
Yes, so multiple physical locations to ensure global policies.
Okay, so we also have things such as Intune and EMS that we
That's a
can
great
leverage as
point.
part of that. So maybe not just managing the identities. The identities are great to help get us into the other applications that we may have, or even be able to comply and audit and log those. But think about devices.
Yes. And BYOD is one of the biggest challenges that organizations are facing nowadays. So that's
Sure.
a big one.
So now we can leverage not only compliance on an individual user or what they're doing, where they're saving their content of the files, but we also can actually get down to the device level, even if it's a personal device. And we can say, assuming you've met certain requirements, we can give you a compliance check. So maybe you have a compliant machine, we're going to give you access to additional data. Maybe we're going to give you additional workloads that you can access. And if not, maybe we're going to require you to VPN in. So there's a lot of infrastructure within Azure Active Directory specifically, and some of the other workloads that EMS is going to include. EMS being the enterprise mobility and security.
Yeah, so it sounds like there is a lot of different parameters and variables that organizations should take into account when considering and finalizing on their digital transformation strategy. So I really appreciate you taking some time today to discuss, what exactly is digital transformation and how an organization can utilize cloud-based services to promote that strategy. That's all the time, unfortunately, that we have for today. So thank you, everyone, for joining us on our first CLOUDCAST. And we look forward to showing you more soon.